Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Breaker SC2. Sorry about that, you were not supposed to see that. What is Battle.net giving me a fit for? This looks like it's an old replay between Achilles and Elfi that I took from the front page of Drop.sc. So you guys are probably wondering, well, what on earth is Breaker doing casting this? Oh, this is old indeed. How do I get past this? Well, I guess I can go ahead and cast it. There's nothing wrong with that. In the lower right hand corner, spawning as our red Zerg, it's going to be like Leslie. That's interesting. I'm sorry, I thought I read the name as Achilles, and in the upper left-hand corner, spawning as our blue Protoss, it is Elfi. Let me just alt-tab real quick and double-check on that. Actually, the name of the player that I downloaded this from was actually Achilles. So maybe this was back when he had a different what's the word I'm looking for? Back when he had a different in-game name, so let's not give that too terribly much thought. At the moment, I just feel like casting something because I'm watching WCS, Calaris, and Totter casting together, and I'm just like, I have to put my voice on something. But now we got some chat going between Leslie and Elfi. This is a really, really old game. This has got to be at least a year old. We're talking about Bel'Shir Vestige, for crying out loud. The last time I remember casting on this map. These guys and their jokes, nothing is up if you know what I mean. Lol. Okay. Well, at any rate, I don't know, I'm feeling not quite abandoned, but the fact of the matter is I haven't gotten my Legacy of the Void invite just yet, as my contacts at Blizzard of Taiwan were supposed to give them to me, or it was supposed to give me an invite rather. But that did not happen, as was expected. For the time being, we've got something much to the tune of your traditional gateway first opener coming from Elfi. Double gas, as is the trend. I'm thinking this might not straight off the bat be a forward pressure, although it could be one or the other. Most typically it is followed with forward pressure. If not, we typically see a Protoss player tack on a few more gateways and then go into a third nexus. I've seen some players go as low as a single nexus and continue on into 3 nexi after they have their natural up and running, and then finally tack on more gateways when they've got their third up, and then finally tack on the last batch of gateways when they've got all 3 of their bases fully saturated. Now, Leslie here, aka Achilles, went for a pool before hatch, and as such, he's going to have a little bit more security with his front door, if you will. That being said, for the time being, we've also got the cybernetics core finishing up for Elfi, and the question is there going to be a tech up accompanying this? No, there will not. There's going to be sentries coming out. I wish I had the exact date of this replay, but I don't have it. So, for the time being, Probes playing tag with some Zerglings, Zealots coming out to run, I guess you could say, forefront, if you will. But for the time being, Leslie's going to arrive at the natural, see if there is a pylon there, and with that being said, going into the main here, he knows it's a gateway first. He knows what to expect from his opponent. He knows what this could be on paper, and there it is. The natural is up. Not quite running, it's getting there, but I'm wondering if... No, he wouldn't do that. Okay. I was thinking maybe he would force field off the ramp to get that Zergling, but it's not worth the resources, and beyond that, he wouldn't need to if he wanted to get both of the Zerglings. For the time being, I mean, obviously, Elfi is rather annoyed at this situation, at this spectacle, just a little bit, based on the fact that, well, if you are a Protoss, you don't try to make the tech up while your opponent is in your main. So he's going to go with the safest route that he can for the time being, and that is getting the Mothership Core out. Sentry will finally shut down that Ling, or will it? There we go, the second one will, rather. So thus far, right now, Leslie knows that his opponent isn't going to be investing any resources into anything crazy, absolutely, how do I say this, astoundingly crazy. Simply based on the matter, based on the fact of the matter, that his opponent has spent 300 resources, more than 300 resources rather, 200 gas into sentries, and then I believe it was 100 gas for the Mothership Core, so there's no crazy tech ups happening here, but the Overlord did get away with the information that it needed, and that is there are 2 gateways at the front. Now, the reason why he went with a second gas, however, is because he wanted to get the Forge out, and that's going to give him +1 with his forward pressure, should he choose to go with it. But that's not something that's been spotted straight off the bat by our Zerg. So Leslie, aka Achilles, assuming they're the same player, doesn't quite have all of this information available at hand. He's going for +1 Carapace and +1 melee. That's not necessarily saying he's going to end the game with Ultras, although that could be something that comes to mind as viable. Follow-up's going to be a robotics coming from Elfi. At this stage in the game, what's going to happen is there's going to be a bunch of Lings coming from Leslie, and they're going to be very, very strong Lings. The game itself may not necessarily end with Ultras. What can happen is we can see a Muta switch into layer tech, but thus far we don't have any roaches out. So perhaps this could be one of those Leanox style builds that we saw in the early Heart of the Swarm days. Who knows? I mean, this is a replay that is potentially as old as a year ago that it was made, but those Lings are moving out right now, and there's so very little to deal with them in the way of gateway units. There's simply a handful of sentries, and that's it. They're going to the third. They see that nothing is here at this peculiar location, and that is basically sending a few alarms through our Zerg's head. I do want to denote, however, that the timing on the third for our Zerg is, how do I say this? It's consistent, and there's the infestation bit. It's consistent with Ling Infestor Ultra. So maybe I can go back on what I said earlier. The question is, what else is in production right now for our Zerg? Elfi at this stage, I want to say he's kind of behind. He's more than just kind of behind. He's really behind at this point because he's allowed his opponent to macro up beyond him at this stage in the game. Adding to that, his opponent's going for a third that he's only now going to become aware of. Or is he? Oh boy. He did not see that. I mean, I imagine he would know, but now there's a Spire going down, and you, me, and everyone else in this game is confused. Alright, so he goes into the main. He didn't see the Hive Tech beginning. You know, this is an analyst's worst nightmare. I'm trying to figure out what he's trying to do at this point. Hive Tech, no infestors, no pathogen glands, nothing like that. I feel like it could be just about anything, but hold that thought. We do have Elfi in a lot of trouble. The force fields are going down, and he didn't lose any gateway units there, but I mean, at the same time, his opponent has all the hegemony in the world to go ahead and start getting that third back online. And I like this move coming from Leslie. He can control the map of these Lings for the time being, but just as I say that, the first Colossus comes out on the battlefield. Versus Lings, 2 Colossus is more than adequate. The natural is now going to start getting oversaturated, and that basically indicates, and the main's already oversaturated, that basically indicates Protoss wants to go for a third base. He goes in, the Observer spots the third. At this stage, excuse me, rather the Spire. At this stage in the game, it should just become common knowledge that Leslie has a third. It doesn't really matter whether or not he sends something to scout for it. Corruptors are now out on the way, and this is one of the unfortunate consequences of not moving out and forcing your opponent to make units. Or rather, if he did move out with the units that he did create from his gateway opener, I feel like that would have been crushed from the get-go. So maybe you could tackle this as build order loss, maybe you couldn't, but we've got everything in the works necessary to make Ultras and Corruptors work. This is... I've never seen this build once, I think. Never once have I seen this. So, right now, what we can tackle this goal is as... It's going to be Ling, Ultra, potentially some Queens, and Corruptor. The Corruptors are meant to tackle Colossus, but at this stage, Elfi is on top of his game. He knows that this is coming, and he went ahead and made double Stargate, and he's cranking out Void Rays right now. So there it is. He moves out. He sees the Corruptors. At least, well, I mean, the Observer saw them. Whether or not Elfi saw them is a completely different question. There's 4 Phoenixes here to just pick off anything that flies, Overlords, Overseers, whatever have you. Mutalisks potentially, But for the time being, he needs to get on the game with dealing with Corruptors. Picking off a Queen to prevent some creep spread. I do like this move. He's gonna get it. It'll take a second pickup, but of course he will get it in the end. The resilience of +2 Carapace is now showing in this game. Fourth base is going down by Leslie, aka Achilles. Here we go. The Ling's going up, and they're just gonna turn back and head home. I mean, this isn't something that he can really fight head on in his present situation. All of these Overlords getting picked off. And 1 Corruptor versus 4 Phoenixes, well, goes without saying who wins that fight, but the rest of the Corruptors show up, and we have Elfi turning tail and heading home. 5 Voids to accompany 3 Colossi. If you want to fight this head on as Zerg in Leslie's position, you have to be extremely careful. 6 Corruptors is not enough. I believe without, what's the word I'm looking for? Without prismatic alignment from these Voids, it's going to be easy for Elfi to deal with what's coming from his opponent. With only 6 Corruptors, that is to say. But now Ultras are coming into the game. And those are meant to crush both force fields and, in some ways, Colossus a lot more in the way of gateway units, rather. The 4th is now getting saturated. Phoenix is continuing to be proactive on the map. I'm liking this. This is pretty good. If we check and see just how many workers have been killed. Well, I wouldn't say worker killed count matters, but let's just check what else he's gotten first time with that. Quite a few Overlords. Some Queens. Not bad. 23 Overlords since the beginning of this game. Interesting. I'm sorry I neglected that so much, but that really adds up. That's 2,300 minerals that Leslie has lost since the beginning of this game, and adding to that, it's also, every time he has to replace those Overlords, he's losing a couple of larvae for it. Not too terribly big, but wow. He's just going at it again. Alright. Corruptors are going to come back. Of course, they can't outmaneuver Phoenixes. Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Is he just trying to throw these away? I think he's going to get that one Overlord first time. Not going to get a second one. And now he's moving out to, well, he was moving out to his opponent's 4th base, but that's not happening in this present position. Only 2 cannons here, but they are able to reach just about every corner of that mineral line. A single Idol Colossus and a handful of Void Rays will be able to deal with that run-by. But with all of this, Sky Toss Colossus, I shudder to think how this fight's going to pan out. Here we go. Leslie's moving out. He's confident with what he's got. Both players are building a bank, but we've already got Leslie at 200-200. It's going to be very vital to make sure those Corruptors can take down every single Colossus that's here. Now we've got Archons coming into the mix along with Immortals. Only a single one out on the map at present. And both players are 200-200. Here comes the big fight. The spread coming from Leslie. He cannot afford to engage this the wrong way. We've only got 5 sentries here, but they're all full energy. It doesn't matter because there's ultras on the ground to negate those force fields. And we've got these 2 Phoenixes just really being an utter thorn in the side of Leslie. Elfi making those guys effective when he can. He says, "What are you? I'm pro." And it looks like oh man, the Voids are going out. Their prismatic alignment has been tripped, and now the rest of the army is just going straight up forward. There's no fungal growth to accompany this. There's only Ultras fighting now, Gateway and Colossus units. There's a single Immortal just pounding away at all of the Ultras on the ground, and it looks like there just might not be enough here for our boss toss to hold. Our mini boss toss, if you will. That one Immortal doing its work, however, he gets about 3 Ultras for his time. The prismatic alignment on these Void Rays is worn off, but who cares? They can shoot at the ground. Ultras can't fly, even if you shove a rocket up their asses. Here we go. The defense has all but been made. I think these 2 cannons and handful of zealots should be able to take care of it. He skipped charge getting to this, I might add. Elfi. That he did. And now, uh-oh. Those Phoenixes, they're gone. Alright, so who's got more resources left at the end of that fight is the real question. This is basically where, I guess you could say, the composition coming from Leslie begins to scale off versus Elfi. If he continues to go with Ultras, if he continues to go with Corruptors, these units, they're not going to perform all that well versus what is coming from Elfi if he continues to just make Immortals and Archons. Archons are meant to tank versus the Ultras on the ground, but if it were viable to bring Broodlords into the mix, I think we might have something working for Leslie. But there's just too many voids. Mass recall to the third base. That's going to keep Elfi from moving out. And now Leslie is supply blocked with God knows how many Overlords have been killed now. I could have sworn I saw 23 Overlords earlier, but forget about it. I could have sworn. I'll check the VOD later, but here we go. Elfi's moving out. He's got an even supply with his opponent. Basically, whenever Protoss is in the position, they have the lead. There's the Prismatic Alignment getting activated again, but the Idle Colossus is going straight into all of those. Corruption hits all of those units, and now it looks like there's just simply not enough anti-air here to deal with all these Corruptors before they deal with the Colossus that are now falling one by one. The Mothership Core looks like it's going to go down next, but at 1 HP, the Corruptors realize the targets of their affection. It is indeed these Colossus. Leslie is happy to throw away these Corruptors because they're dead weight if he has nothing to accompany them. Meanwhile, a bunch of Zealots are going ham on the 4th, and it looks like this might be a fight that Leslie can hold. Indeed, this is where, forget what I said earlier about scaling off. There was just simply too many Corruptors coming from Leslie, and he had enough of a bank to make it work, but now this exchange is going extremely, extremely even. As I say that, there's more reinforcing Ultras coming in, and we have the Elfi throwing out the GG at 64 supply. He knew he just couldn't make it happen. He didn't get enough workers killed over the course of the entire game to make a massive difference. He did get 19 done, but I mean, at the end of the day, it wasn't enough. So that's going to be it for the day, guys. My name is Benjamin Breaker Novotny. I'll see you guys next time.